Every bad thing that has ever happened to you in your life is 100% your fault. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Crypto Renegade here for you. So in today's video, I wanted to cover a topic that's not widely covered, and it has to do with personal responsibility and self-custody, and basically why a lot of times a lot of people that I've talked to feel so powerless when it comes to crypto. Now again, I know this is not a very sexy topic, but it's really crucial for you to understand why people feel like they're a victim, why people feel like they're powerless when it comes to this space, and ultimately what you can do about it. There's a lot of free options, there's a lot of paid options, and it's really just the knowledge to understand what it is you need to do. Now, of course, if you followed my channel for any amount of time, you would know that I do a lot of reviews and deep dive into cryptocurrency hardware wallets, cold storage solutions, self-custody, and a whole lot more. But my focus here is about a little thing called personal responsibility that a lot of people really don't resonate with. I mean, we've grown up in a society where basically it's so easy to blame other people for what happens to you, or for anything else that you don't want to take responsibility for. And a lot of these have to do with things like putting off the responsibility of your own money onto banks. We've been trained basically our whole lives that, hey, put your money here, put your money there. And this goes into every aspect of our lives, whether it be personal relationships, whether it be our finances and our money, whether it be really anything under the sun. When I started this with saying that every single thing in your life that has happened to you that is considered quote unquote bad is your fault, I really meant that. And you could be like, well, what happens if I get in a car accident and someone overruns me? Is that my fault? The answer is yes. You're putting out a frequency of something that matches that identically, and you're attracting that in your life. A lot of times you don't even realize it, and a lot of times it has to do with your own mindset. Rewind the clock back 10 years. In 2013, I first started getting into Bitcoin. I started mining it on a laptop. Talked to very few people about it because every time I brought it up, they didn't understand what I was talking about. They thought it was just nerd money. They thought it was World of Warcraft money. And so I started accumulating hundreds of Bitcoins. Now, at that time, as you know, the infamous Mt. Gox was the only exchange, and it was the only option that people had. And they didn't have any hardware wallets back then. In fact, I don't think Trezor even came out with Model 1 until 2014 or 2015. But I digress on that point. That's a different story for another time. So your only options at that point was a paper wallet, if you knew how to do that, or using an exchange. And back then I wasn't very educated when it came to this. So my big mistake was obviously leaving the money on Mt. Gox, thinking stupidly that I could withdraw it at any time, and kind of like a bank, my money is always there, I can always withdraw it. The thing about crypto that's way different than other money is there's no derivatives. And what I mean by that is if you have Bitcoin, the actual private keys on an exchange, there's no paper claims to that like you have at banks, where you have to have X amount of reserves on hand for any particular types of withdrawals. It is one-to-one. So that's a big part of self-responsibility and personal responsibility and self-sovereignty. But the point I'm trying to make here is that when you're dealing with back then crypto and you lose all of it because your single source of access goes down, it gets shut down, they rug pull you, whatever, you learn a very valuable lesson. Pain is a very powerful motivator. Loss is an even more powerful motivator. And this goes for all aspects of life. The point I'm trying to make here is that point in time, once I realized it, and I didn't even get back into crypto until 2015, but that time off and that self-reflection and other things that were going on in my life made me realize that there has to be a better way, and that every single thing that you do, you have to take personal responsibility for. When you give your power, and in this case it was my private keys, to somebody else, you no longer own that. They own that. And I want to repeat that because that's very important. If your money is in any wallet that you do not control, that is not your money. That is not your private keys. If you have money in a bank account, that's not your money. If you have money anywhere other than your physical possession at all times, you do not own it, you do not control it. When I say that, that might trigger some people and say, well, that just makes me feel powerless, and that just isn't true, or they'll start to make excuses. Once you start to take personal responsibility for every aspect of your life, you begin to take all of that power back. When it comes to crypto specifically, I started looking into solutions of, okay, there's gotta be a better way. I'm taking something that's inherently digital or non-tangible, and I wanna make it tangible so that I can feel secure. And I started going obviously down the deep dive of hot wallets, cold wallets, warm wallets, best cold storage solution options. And at that time, you really only had the Trezor Model 1 and the Ledger Nano S back then. And KeepKey, I believe, came in 2016, but that was, again, a different company, and that wasn't very different. So you really only had a handful of options. The point I'm trying to make here is that when you take that responsibility and you learn, you take the time to learn, and again, I'll link in the description my free ebook that gives you 7 ways that you can secure your own private keys, take ownership of your money so that it is yours, so that you are in control. It's 100% free. You can download it and take a look. But there's different ways that you can take control. If you leave your money on an exchange, you don't own it. If you leave it on Robinhood, you don't own it. If it's literally anywhere that you don't have access to the 24-word recovery seed phrase, or you don't have the actual private key in your possession, then it's not yours. And I want you to take back what is yours. I want you to start owning what is actually yours and not having to rely on any other third party by trust. There's an ethos that always comes around in crypto, and it's don't trust and verify. And when you look at taking self-responsibility and personal responsibility, there's a couple of things that you can do that will make you feel like you're in control of your own life, you're in control of your own money. I don't have to remind a lot of you what happened with FTX. That caused a lot of pain, and it was a huge wake-up call for people that thought their money was safe and then soon learned that it wasn't. And that motivated a lot of people to actually move into learning about self-custody, learning about their options. What's warm storage? What's cold storage? You know, what are the different wallet types that I can do to control my seed phrase and control my backup keywords? What can I do, and what are their different ways? How do I spread it out? Now, I go very deep down the rabbit hole, and there's a lot of different ways to protect your private keys. Again, free version in full detail in my free ebook below. Warm storage or hot wallets, that's going to be something like blockchain.com or Atomic Wallet, which I don't recommend you use because they got hacked. Again, just furthering my point that even there are risks even with self-custody when you're dealing with hot versus cold storage. And there's even going to be risk with cold storage. We just saw that happen with Ledger, where they, in a lot of ways, misled us and led us to believe that our private keys could never be extracted, and it turns out that that in fact can happen. But again, I'm gonna save the unraveling and the unfolding of that for a different video. The point I'm trying to make is there is no perfect solution to security, but there's a lot of steps that you can personally take to protect yourself and give you a much, much better chance of feeling like you're in control. I had people ask me, hey, you know, if I lost my funds, you know, what do I need to set up and what do I need to do? I don't have a lot of money. I just lost all of my money. So what can I do and how can I access this so I can control my private keys? A lot of people that I've been dealing with either have their money on Robinhood, which again, you don't own, or they leave it on Coinbase, or they leave it on some other Binance or whatever. And I don't recommend ever under any circumstances leaving your money, because the minute that you deposit money into that exchange account, it's no longer yours. Don't get me wrong, I understand there's some cases where if you want to trade or if you want to off-ramp or on-ramp, you need to use those exchanges, but you pull off your funds and your private keys immediately. There's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, you want to obviously learn about self-custody. There's a very easy way to do that down below. And the gist of that is basically taking control and ownership of your private keys so that you don't copy it, that you have it somewhere in private, it's not online, you can have a backup of it, and then if something ever goes wrong with a hardware wallet or a hot wallet, or something gets hacked, etc., you have the ability to restore your funds and you're not actually lost. That's happened to me several times where I've had to restore wallets because something went wrong. A lot of redundancies, a lot of backups, and then splitting up the seed phrase. Again, a lot of this gets technical, but I go into it in depth in the ebook. The other thing is making a plan. I'm sure you've heard the ironic or the cliche saying of, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that's how it goes, but basically the gist of that is that if you don't have a plan, and if you just think that, hey, I want to be lazy and I don't want to take responsibility and I'll deal with it later, you're going to get burned sooner or later. That is an absolute, undeniable 100% fact. It's a certainty. So the faster that you start learning and taking the time and taking the responsibility for yourself, the quicker it will be that you're going to feel a lot more stable, a lot more secure, and you're going to feel like you're taking your power back. There were a lot of people that threw around the word that they were feeling was victim, or I was deceived, or I was lied to. Well, there's ways to do that to protect yourself, and I want to help you with those ways so that you can take your control back. There was a reason that I took so much time off of YouTube and making videos. There was a lot of self-reflection, a lot of personal responsibility, a lot of things in my personal life that I had to face and own up to and really recalibrate so that I knew what I was adding value to, what my purpose was. I wasn't just trying to build an audience. I wasn't just trying to make money. I wanted to understand what value and what experience I could pass on to people. And crypto security, albeit not a very sexy topic, is probably the most crucial aspect of everything, because if you don't control your funds, then what is the point of getting into this industry, especially if it's to transact freely outside of governments? If it's to even make money, there's ways you can do it in a much safer way. Obviously, we've learned that exchanges aren't safe and can't be trusted. So you have to take that energy and take that responsibility and look at yourself in the mirror hard and understand that, hey, I made some mistakes. It's not too late. I can take some very small and easy and even free steps instead of blaming, instead of becoming a victim, instead of saying, well, this isn't fair. None of those things give you power. That gives your power to somebody else. If you stop and think about the psychology of being a victim and feeling powerless and feeling like you have no options, that's simply because you haven't been educated in the right way to know what other options you have to be secure. This again goes across every aspect of life. If you're in a relationship, if you're dealing with your finances, if you're dealing with business, just regular communication, knowing your value, knowing your worth, all those kinds of things, and those can fluctuate over time. You have to be able to make a plan. So step one, for example, is if you're watching this for the first time and you say to yourself, okay, I do have all my Bitcoin or all my Ethereum or whatever altcoin that I have on Coinbase. Well, what's the very first thing you can do? If it is long-term storage, something that you plan to keep for a very long time, I highly recommend that you look at a hardware wallet solution. Again, if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper that I trust and that I would also use, that's roughly around $100. That would be the Trezor Model 1. Again, link is in the ebook or in the description. If you want the best of the best in security, I recommend, of course, and I personally use the Engrave Zero. There's lots of different wallets out there. There's a lot of different benefits, features. To me, the most important thing is security, because I would be a multi-millionaire, decamillionaire right now had I taken those steps and I learned. And we all learn the hard way about what's going on and what could have been. And if I had all those hundreds of Bitcoin that I back then that I had now, if I had learned these proper things up front and taking precautions and taking steps to protect my own private keys, which is really my ethos now, and understanding to help people feel that they have options, they have choices, and that at the end of the day, no matter what happens to you, you're in control. You get to think differently, you get to act differently, you get to do things in your life that give you the ability to make change for yourself, to improve yourself, and to take possession. If you're pulling your money off of an exchange, where do you pull it? If you need a free option that's better than an exchange right off the bat, I'll give you an example of a hot wallet that I've used on my phone and I use periodically is blockchain.com. They support Bitcoin, Ethereum, several altcoins, and you can set up your I believe it's 12-word recovery seed phrase with them, and you can actually control your funds. Now, that means it's still online, which means there's still a potential of it being hacked. I don't recommend uploading any of your backups, taking a picture on your phone, backing it up to iCloud, none of that. But that's the first step that you can do while you're researching your crypto hardware wallet options, which will keep your private keys offline, and it will significantly reduce any chance of getting hacked. The other thing that I want to mention here is if you start making plans on how to do that, again, it really goes into my ebook on all the steps that you take in order, what your various options are, what the pros and cons are, and what's free and what's paid, and why you would even want to consider doing that. And you want to stick to a plan, because when you make a plan in life and you actually follow through, you're teaching yourself that you can trust yourself. If you start telling people, oh, I'm going to start doing this, this, and this, and there's no action that actually backs that up, not only do people lose trust in you, but you start losing trust in yourself. And that's really the only thing that matters, is your own trust in yourself. I'll use going to the gym as an example. You want to lose weight, you want to get stronger, whatever it's going to be. You have to make a plan, you have to be disciplined, and you have to follow through on that plan. And the thing about plans is that they become very easy once you start doing them. You feel like you have a lot more control over your life. And if something goes against that plan, you know how to easily get back on track. Again, using the gym as an example, because health is important to everyone, the same thing applies when we're talking about cryptocurrency, when we're talking about self-custody, and especially when we're talking about personal responsibility. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to show up and take care of you. You have to do that. Every single thing that you interact with in your life, it comes down to your own thoughts and your own actions. Those are the only two things in this world that you can control. But if you make a plan on how to mitigate other people's actions, how to address other variables in this world that are outside of your control, you'll start to become a lot more confident and a lot more happy. And my goal with this video is to remind people is that they do have power, you do have control, and if you haven't been doing that, it either means right now that you're being lazy, or you feel like I don't need to and someone else is handling it. There's a time for delegation and there's a time to take personal responsibility. This is the time for personal responsibility, especially with your money. It's no secret that Silicon Valley Bank, all these banks, all the cracks in our current system are starting to fail. And that really is what attracted me to Bitcoin in the first place, is this idea, this concept that you can use money, which is one of the most powerful forces and concepts in history, and you can literally own it yourself and not have to trust a government or a bank or other people, which can be corrupted. You really should be only trusting yourself, because at the end of the day, you're with yourself. You have your own thoughts, you have your own actions, and everything outside of you, whether it be family, whether it be a wife, whether it be a husband, it doesn't matter. Everything that happens ultimately comes down to you. It's your responsibility, and you have the power to fix that. You have a power to start taking control of your own life. And when you do that, I promise you're going to be happier. I promise that things are going to start working out better for you. There's a funny way that when you start expecting good things start to happen. But if you're in a place right now where you feel like you're a victim, where you feel like you're hopeless, like you feel like everything is working against you, all that means is a sign that you just need to look in the right place in order to learn and help yourself. And again, there's lots of excuses of why you would want to do that. That's just you giving your power to somebody else. Every excuse in this world is just deflecting blame or deflecting responsibility. I promise you, once you start taking personal responsibility in every aspect of your life, everything will start feeling better for you. Now, when it comes to crypto and self-custody, that becomes very easy. You have someone like me that wants to help people, that's learned the hard way, that's lost hundreds of Bitcoins. Instead of blaming Mt. Gox, instead of blaming other people for what went wrong, I decided to take it upon myself to learn, to educate myself, and to be motivated. That pain and that loss motivated me to learn about how I can do that, and it became a passion of mine. I'm absolutely positive that I'm not the first person that this has ever happened to. There's been more and more people that are new, that are rookies, that maybe got arrogant, they got cocky, whatever the case may be. There's always safeguards that you can put in place, and there's some basic fundamentals that you can use to protect yourself. And the sad fact is most people don't realize what they've lost until it's gone. That's human psychology. But a wise man will learn from others' mistakes, and a smart man will learn from his own mistakes. A lot of that comes through experience. Be wise, learn through my painful experience, take the steps that you need to learn so that you can feel like you are in control. And even when you do take self-custody, that's self-management. If you lose those private keys, if you lose your backup phrase, if something goes wrong, even when you take control, you still have to take personal responsibility for that. You cannot deflect that on anyone else. There's things in this world that you can control, and there's things in this world that you can't. When you start taking energy and putting things into what you can control, making redundancies, making backups, again, I go over all of this in my free ebook. There's a lot of things that you can do to help yourself take your power back in every aspect of your life. I feel like once people start learning that in every aspect of their life, personal responsibility is the most important thing, taking ownership of everything you do right and everything you do wrong, you pull that just really powerful energy back inside of yourself, and you don't look to outside forces for safety, for security, for guidance. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't have friends or you shouldn't have mentors or you shouldn't be able to bounce off ideas. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that when you go through this process, I promise you'll start to look at the positives and you'll be guided and you'll be inspired to different options that will actually help empower you, which is really what I want. I realize after taking a lot of time off on this channel is what is my goal? What is my purpose? What is my motivation? And that's to help people that feel powerless, that feel lost, that feel dejected, that feel like they're a victim, that they're not. That's all in your head. There are steps, there are things that you can do to make your life better, to take responsibility, to take full control of your life, no matter what it is. If your dog dies, if your girlfriend leaves you, if everything starts going bad, that's a good sign because you're about to hit rock bottom, and that's the point where you can only go up. And it really motivates. Those are extremely powerful motivators, pain and loss. So make a plan, stay disciplined, focus on your personal responsibility in all aspects of your life. And again, if you're unsure of where to start, free resources down in the description below. When you start to do this, you will start to trust yourself. You'll start gaining confidence. You'll start doing this and applying it in every aspect of your life. And I have some new videos coming out very shortly. They're going to talk about different cold storage options, self-custody options. We're going to talk about open source versus closed source. We're going to talk about private key generation process and some very technical things for some of the more advanced users. But if you're watching this right now, even if you've been in the crypto space for a very long time, we all sometimes go into that victim mentality, or it's not my fault mentality, or I lost money in a trade mentality. It doesn't matter. You can start to shift the focus and take responsibility for everything that you do. And the best way to do that is to make a plan and then act on that plan and then hold yourself accountable by staying disciplined. Slowly but surely that will compound over time. This is enough of my rant that I wanted to get off my chest today. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Go ahead and check out other videos that I have linked down below, and check out that free ebook if you haven't. I just updated it recently, got some new information in there, and I'm actually writing a revised version now because the previous version was actually a precursor and a warning to Ledger and their security practices and what went wrong there. So a lot of new information is coming at us, and I'm excited to release an updated and accurate version shortly. But go ahead and check out what I have right now, and I will see you guys in the next video. It is time to upset the established order. Crypto Renegade out.